Good evening. I would like to call to order this Wilmette Park District regular meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners, Monday, July 11th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. Could we begin with a roll call?
Commissioner Duffy.
Present.
Commissioner Anderson is absent. Commissioner Frazier.
Here.
Commissioner Goebel is absent. Commissioner Clark.
Here.
Commissioner Kozlowskis.
Here.
Commissioner Murdoch.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great. And I wanted to note that that Commissioner Goebel may be joining us by phone later. And if she does, there's a process that we need to go through. She's traveling for work. I'd like to begin the meeting tonight by recognizing the phenomenal job that you, Steve, and your entire staff did running a fantastic event on July 3rd, starting with the largest Yankee Doodle Dash we've ever had and finishing with the best fireworks show in the area. I'd specifically like to thank the Wilmette Police Department, the Wilmette Fire Department for their efforts, and for the other police forces in the area who supported our event. I probably take for granted all of the planning and preparation that goes into these events to be ready for anything that might occur. But we're all reminded of this the following day, and so our thoughts and hearts go out to the people of Highland Park. In a very fluid situation that day, our Park District staff acted quickly in the interest of public safety to disperse larger groups from throughout our venues. As public servants, our highest priority is the safety of our community, and we're fortunate to have such strong staff and great community fire and police partners working together for all of us. So, Steve, please pass along my appreciation to those partners.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our appreciation.
Our appreciation.
Duly
Absolutely. Yes.
Can I also add in, just jumping to, especially since you mentioned July 3rd, I meant to show this to some of you earlier, but I get a weekly the North Shore Weekend every Friday in my mailbox, and this most recent issue had a very nice article about having a kosher food truck at the July 3rd celebration. So it's a very long one-page article thanking Steve, particularly by name, for arranging that to happen. So I'm glad that we were able to meet needs, as we do, meet the needs of our community and of all different types, stripes and religions and cultures. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All credit needs to go to Jason Stanislaw, who was in charge of our food vendor. So we'll pass that along to him.
Yes.
Great. I'd also like to note that this is our first board meeting after our first committee of the whole. So the structure will be a little bit different. We won't see reports from individual commissioners about various committees because now it's all one committee. I think we'll also see that these meetings will probably be slightly briefer than they have been in the past. I hope Jim Crowley is watching because when I was on the board the last time around, he prided himself on running about 30-minute park board meetings. So we'll see. Ooh. I'm not ready to call an over-under on that, but I think we'll be much closer to where we were in those olden days, if you will. So with that, could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda of the July 11th, 2022 regular board meeting, a copy of which is to be attached to and become a permanent part of the minutes of this meeting.
And a second.
I'll second.
All right, does anyone want to pull anything off of the consent agenda for any reason? No. All right, I'd just like to highlight that we didn't approve the annual board meeting last meeting because in the minutes I wanted to include some language about some of the successes from the past year, so I saw that was added. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. With that, could I have a roll call?
Commissioner Duffy.
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier.
Yes.
Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis.
Yes.
Commissioner Murdoch.
Yes.
Consent agenda is approved.
Communication and correspondence. Is there anything that anyone would like to share? I know, Cecilia, you wanted to highlight a couple of things.
Well, I do mention that there was a email from Alyssa Morganti about Langdon Park. I don't think it was included in the packet. I was planning to respond to her, but I wanted to, just talk to Director Wilson for a bit before to make sure that my response was correct. And there was also a email from Mary Shea that I did respond to that also, at least on the online packet that I look at, was not included in the packet regarding July 3rd. So.
Okay, anything else? All right, next item on our agenda, 4.0, is public comment and recognition of visitors. Could I see a show of hands of who would like to address us this evening? Okay. All right, Alyssa, would you like to step up?
Hello, my name's Alyssa Morganti, and I thought I would just read my letter aloud since I didn't hear from anybody. The design plans for creating a new path, is that echoing?
I think you're okay.
It is? Oh, it just sounds weird to me, okay. The design plans for creating a new path to Langdon present many questions and issues we would like to address here. To begin with, can you please clarify if and how you have solicited data from the community that warrants this transformative access path and stairs? As we recall from the 2015 referendum, Wilmette residents clearly voted down the extensive upgrades of amenities and overbuilding of Langdon. The resounding sentiment was to preserve the historical nature, unbuilt character of the environment at Langdon. People expressed clearly that the reason they go to Langdon is specifically because of the quiet natural landscape. Have you done a new poll? If so, does it explicitly support this extensive access path to Langdon? And then I gave you a copy of the article from the trip. The current plan shows a concrete ramp that spans the entire length of the beach, by which the visitors land at the far north end of the beach by the apartment buildings. There is also a lookout area platform about 1/5 of the way down the concrete ramp. There one can choose to use a set of stairs or continue to proceed on the ramp, which traverses the full width of the beach. The plan does not show where the beach pass control structure will be in this design. Based on the current design, it would seem logical that the structure would be located somewhere on or around the lookout in order to control the entrance for beach pass holders only. This structure will further detract from the natural landscape. The former structure was a simple shed nestled into the bluff along the dirt path down to the water. This shed was removed prior to falling into the lake during the very high lake levels a few years ago. I wonder what will happen to this new structure and staircase, as no one has a crystal ball to know when and how high the lake levels will rise next time. The proposed lookout also seems redundant, as there is also already several park benches at the top of the bluff to provide quiet and comfortable lookout areas. Instead of an overdeveloped access ramp, stairs, and lookout, the Wilmette Park District could pursue a professionally engineered, compacted, gravel and fill, permanently permeable path for pedestrians and vehicular access. The slope can be designed to work with the natural grade and have minimal impact on the bluff. The access path that was there and was destroyed during the storms was never an engineered access road. It was developed by Wilmette Park District maintenance vehicles driving to and from the beach. This work could commence with a repair permit and does not require a special permits for building on the bluff. Lastly, by designing and constructing a well-engineered path, when lake levels rise again and destroy everything close to the water, this type of path will be easier to repair, as opposed to the inevitability of new staircases and railings winding up as debris in the lake. In addition, by developing a well-engineered path in essentially the same place as the former roadway, it will not disrupt the bluff and will not compromise or require any trees to be cut. Although the Smith Group says their plan will require minimal tree cutting, it is hard to believe that when you look at the photos, comparing what exists today and the rendering that Smith Group gave. The relatively newly restored Elmwood Dunes is a great example of a sensitively restored and restoration and celebration of natural landscape that people can now enjoy. The trees and natural vegetation were renewed and preserved and now provides another unique beach experience for visitors. We are also very lucky to have Gilson Beach. This wonderful asset to the community provides all the amenities for people seeking this type of beach experience: bathrooms, showers, refreshments, ADA access, and an easy and accessible parking lot. Thank you for your time and consideration. And I'd like to know when there's more drawings and so forth to evaluate.
Thank you. And I apologize. I know you and I tried to connect, but I apologize we didn't connect.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do I get any response from this? Like,
Not-
was there a poll or?
Not at this
No,
point.
not now.
Yes.
So I do have a question about that. Why? I mean, Cecilia said she was preparing a response and wanted to talk to Steve. I mean, so we've got the answers right here. Why can't we answer some of her questions?
What questions do you want answered?
Well, it seems to me that the planning of this has been going on for coming up on 2 years, right? So some of her questions, if she went back and looked at old meetings or had attended any of the committee meetings, she would be up to speed on some of the questions that she asked, in particular about how we got to an ADA, grade to get down there, and why we're cutting across the slope, and why we can't go straight down to the beach like it used to be. Maybe, at least initially answer that question as to why we can't go straight down to the beach like we used to be able to, and why there's park benches up top and a lookout halfway down at the stairs. I was not on that committee, and so, I know the answers to that. I watched some of how we got there, but.
I think, there were options presented on how to get down the bluff, and all of those options had price, cost estimates associated with them, and the difference between option 1 through option 3 were pretty minimal. And so through the discussions of the Lakefront Committee, ultimately it was selected to go with the ramp style because it provided bluff stabilization on top of just what the revetment would do as a standalone revetment.
Right.
Then the stair component was added through conversation about whether, people were just going to go off the path and go straight down the bluff and do damage to the vegetation.
Right.
Therefore, the stair component was then added to the ramp concept. So that's how we arrived at the design.
And that outlook kind of area at the point where the stairs start is a point where staff can be to check passes.
Correct.
And kind of control access
Correct.
to the beach.
And there would be no intent of built structure on that. Similar
right.
to the staff member who's in a chair with an umbrella at the gate to the swim beach at Gilson, a similar chair setup would be all that would be required.
Right. And then as far as the stairs, the storms coming up and just demolishing the stairs, I think at our last meeting, I posed a similar question to the consultant who assured us that they were going to be safe and that we, essentially shouldn't worry. My thought was concrete stairs down into the sand, maybe a couple of feet down into the sand, then the sand gets pushed back up to them. They seem to, you would think that poured concrete would stand up more to storm damage over time, but that was not where we were advised to go, it felt like.
Correct.
And I think going all the way back to the original conversations, because I think this was something that you had weighed in, we actually had considered doing stabilization without any access
At all,
whatsoever,
yeah.
possibly. And then once we decided we wanted access, I, for one, was surprised that the longer path was really not much more expensive, and it would allow more folks access to it.
Right.
Yes.
Through better
And
ADA
I-
accessibility.
Since I'm listening, but part of the comment is because the stabilizing the bluff requires the use of armor stone, it is impossible to create a direct
Line straight, yeah.
straight down. So everything to reach that path would require stairs, and stairs for anyone who's trying to get out to the beach, who's challenged by their mobility, the stairs could be very challenging for anyone. So it was that plus the idea that the ramp would help stabilize the bluff itself that led to that determination.
I think
that it
there's
was
also, is you
wiser.
throw in also the consideration about the actual angle from the top of the bluff down to the beach.
That was partly why we have that.
Yeah,
You
it was,
have to
it was an extreme angle,
Yes.
as the consultants were pointing out to us, why
Yes.
we needed to move the path at least back and forth a little bit. And then you guys came to the conclusion, let's just bring it down and get down. And that way we met some ADA compatibility or accessibility, whatever the phrase is.
And I kind of would also add, this is a well-engineered path. This
Yeah.
isn't something that a truck's driving down has caused. This has been well thought out and engineered with excellent engineers
Yep.
who have already obtained many of the permits that are required.
And again, this has been going on for almost 2 years.
Well, we originally were discussing it
Yeah.
while we were on Zoom, so yes.
Yeah. I mean, it was being discussed before the election started that,
Right.
the three of us were elected. Yeah.
And I recall, I was surprised by the small number of trees that would be impacted, but I believe most of the ramp is in front of the bluff, in front of the tree line, part of that stabilization. And that's why there were so few trees.
I think it's only 2 trees.
Two
and-
trees,
And both
correct.
those trees are in poor condition.
And lastly, I think at our last meeting, we directed staff when they're bidding this out to make the stair and the lookout as options.
Right.
So that, when we get the cost back, we can consider what we end up doing. So it's not a foregone conclusion that there will be stairs, for example, but I think there was a fair amount of conversation about without stairs, that there's a high likelihood that people will just make their own path down, and then there's a possible additional degradation.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you very much.
So hopefully we've answered some of the questions, and then we can follow up from there. Walter, I believe you wanted to address us?
I had sent a couple emails that I didn't see in there and here, so I'm not sure if I have to please put in the packet on them. Do you think
No.
we need to do that, do we?
I don't remember. Did you send them to everybody?
Yeah,
you
yeah. That's what I always would do, yeah.
I mean, was that before the committee of the whole?
I don't think so. I think it was after that, because that stuff related to that, so. But
Oh,
anyway.
sorry, I would have mentioned.
So we'll double check and have it in
Yeah,
the committee of the
sorry
whole
about
packet. Thank you, Walter.
I don't know that I received an email from you, Walter. I'll double check. I don't know that I received an email from you this time, so I'll double check. But
Is there anyone else on this side who would like to address us? All right, over here. Beth?
Good evening. My name is Beth Butcher. I live at 1420 Sheridan Road, and I'm glad to be able to follow Alyssa and her comments because my comments are relative to Langdon and the beach access, the proposed plan that is under consideration by the Park Board. The building where I live at 1420 is 2 buildings to the north of Langdon Park. And throughout the years, I have attended many Lakefront Committee meetings relative to Langdon Park, both prior to the referendum, after the referendum, prior to the renovation when the new tot lot was put in, and subsequent meetings. I will admit, Cecilia, I haven't been to some of the meetings where only Lake Langdon was discussed in the last year or so, or when it was on Zoom. And I would have been at the committee of the whole meeting this last time to discuss this proposal as to how it impacts the neighbors and their property. Unfortunately, I was having some back surgery. So at any rate, I'm here to ask you to consider your impact on the neighbors when you have this type of a proposal where your ramp would go north along the bluff and then south along the bluff. And I also took some pictures. I was at Langdon on Saturday morning with onshore conditions, high winds, high waves, and I'll be happy to walk this along. But unfortunately, your proposal, once again, is going to be underwater, okay? And Alyssa did share her email or letter with me, and I would adopt that. I will tell you that there are people within the condominium buildings along there that have been very concerned about people accessing their property through Langdon. And it's not just been this summer, it's been the last several summers. We do have no trespassing signs on our seawall. That doesn't seem to stop a lot of the people. My concern is the more your designed ramp brings people to the north end of the property, the more there are going to be people trespassing over 1410's property, onto 1420's property, up onto the seawall, jumping off the seawall, diving into the water. The water is now getting lower. There are rocks there. You can have all the insurance in the world, and you can have all the signage in the world. I don't want to see some kid have a broken neck or die down there. We call the police. By the time the police come, they're gone, but that's what we're asked to do. Our doorman can't always get out there. I want you to know that not only just this summer, but several summers, there's been no one there to keep people off of that beach, but people are accessing it. They're coming from the street side, they're coming from the beach side, they're going down your hill, doesn't matter, they're doing it. When they are getting on the wall on 1420, in addition to jumping in the water on from the 1410 side, and there's rocks all along there that have been put there for erosion purposes through the years. They've also gotten into our pool area. They've gotten into our pool. They've been trying to get into first floor condominium buildings. I will be speaking to my condominium board as well as 1410's condominium board and I believe 1440 has the same management as 1410.
Beth, could
I
you-
understand that you've
conclude?
had a
Thanks.
couple of years to be in your planning stages, but I would ask you to consider your impact on the neighbors. And I think the last year and a half shows to you, I think very much, how much Wilmette residents feel about their neighborhood parks, and they feel about the park district, whether it is being a good neighbor or not, when it does certain things within the park land that then impacts them. So
Thank you,
will
Beth.
you will be hearing from additional neighbors along there. It's not a matter of not wanting access. Believe me, I'd be more than happy to have access back at Langdon, and many people would. But the proposal,
Thank
the
you, Beth.
alternative.
Could I ask you to wrap
No,
up,
I would really
please?
like to finish, Mike. We don't have much of an opportunity to speak anymore. You try to tell us to come to these meetings. I'd really like to finish.
I'd
Please.
like to ask you to finish up if you
I
could
would
quickly.
if you'd let me finish.
Thank you.
Thank you. The alternative proposal by Alyssa Morgante and Fred Wilson, they're engineers. They've built many homes and other properties along the lakefront. The people who have come from our board to the park board, specifically when the tot lot was being considered at Langdon, talked to them about what we had to do for seawall protection several years, and the need at that time for the park district to take action to protect Langdon. And for whatever reason, it was not done. Some ideas are being considered now. But I'm telling you, you really, really have an opportunity here to be a good neighbor. I understand you have to look at costs, but you haven't looked at the totality of the circumstances, not only for now, not only for this park, not only for this park board, but for the future of that lakefront and the future of this park board having to deal with repair costs. Whatever you put down there, that lake is going to attack. And so you're just going to have to keep on repairing. If
All right,
do it
thank you,
simple-
Beth. I'm going to ask you to finish up at this point. We've given you a fair amount of extra time. Thank you for coming tonight.
Oh,
Thank
I'll
you.
be back. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Oh, and by the way, I would like to show you this photograph, if that's okay.
I'm okay. I go down there quite often. I'm very familiar with it.
Okay, I was standing in the water.
I'm familiar with it.
This isn't every day, but this is the high water wave conditions that were there.
Thank you, Beth.
Saturday morning.
Is there anyone else who would like to address us this evening?
Where are you standing? I'm sorry.
You can see where the wash line is.
No, not the wash line. I mean, like, are you standing at the property line of Langdon?
I'm standing here going,
Oh,
looking
okay.
south, and then I'm standing here looking north.
Can I zoom? Is that okay?
That's coloring.
I mean, I look at this from the water,
Steve?
and then should we go this way for the other picture?
Oh, I'm sorry.
My bad.
That's all right. That's why I was trying to hold on to it.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm curious. I usually see it from the
This is
water.
That's looking a little bit further into the water.
Yep.
I was standing out here. You can see where
see
the
that
wash
one,
line
yeah.
is. Okay, and I understand.
And this is the same day where the waves were
Yeah.
washing up? Yeah.
Okay, and I understand it changes day to day.
So my question is, based on where the current, what do you call the rocks? Armory rocks or something like that?
There's a series of.
Those are,
different
the
types of
new rocks are going to be further back into the bluff, right? I mean, we talked to the consultant about starting them further back so there's more beach from where we currently exist.
Well, I know the goal is to protect the bluff.
Right.
But I'm just saying that whatever you put in there, that is
If
going
it's-
to be exposed.
If it's not concrete or rock, that's my opinion too, that it's going to be washed away.
And my opinion is too, if you let nature take its course and let that bluff redevelop, it will, as it has done in the past.
Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
At this point, I believe Commissioner Goebel can join us. Is that correct?
Is there any other public comment?
So I think I asked that no one else is looking to address us. So from a practical standpoint, we need to get her on the phone, and then we need to make a motion.
Make the motion, get a second, all in favor, and then we'll get her on the phone.
So could I have a motion to include Commissioner Goebel? The requirements, as I understand it, are we have to have a quorum without the commissioner who's joining us by telephone, which is the case. That commissioner needs to be unavailable for work-related or health-related issues. And we verified that this is a work-related issue, that she's out of town. So could I have a motion?
Yeah, seeing as Commissioner Goebel is on a work event and available to join us by Zoom, and we already have quorum, I move that we phone her and bring her into the meeting.
A second.
In a second? All right. Could I have a roll call?
Just all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Beautiful.
Your clicking wants me to go. I'm like, oh, somebody else is doing it, I can do it. And I keep bringing the wrong pens.
Speakerphone and point a microphone.
Yeah.
That way.
Do you want to put her name?
Put her name
over
tag
there?
back up.
Look at that. Julia, can you hear us okay?
No, I can't.
Yes, I can.
Oh, there
Great.
we go. Yes.
Wonderful. All right. We have gone through the consent agenda, communication and correspondence, and public comment, and we're about to hear Speed's executive director's reports. Your timing is great. Thank you for joining us.
All right, so as Commissioner Murdoch started the meeting off with, July 3rd, we had our event starting off in the morning with about 580 runners at our 5K called the Yankee Doodle Dash. Great turnout. The staff did a wonderful job organizing everything. I want to thank, in particular, Marlon Rodas, who no longer is with the district, and one of his staff members, Natalie Heleniak, who really did a lot of heavy lifting, but it was a much larger effort through the rec staff to make it happen. But as we talked about, these things don't happen without the support of other units of government, in particular, Public Works, police, fire, who secure the route for us. The day then continued on into the afternoon, where the larger event, the festival, began at 5 p.m. With two bands on the main stage, roving entertainers and Jesse White tumblers between the two bands. And at 9:30, the fireworks began. And again, we had a pretty smooth event. The police chief informed me that they only had to write one citation throughout the entire event. So everyone was very well behaved. Obviously, as Commissioner Murdoch touched upon, the next day, the incidents in Highland Park definitely put a dark cloud over our event the day prior. But again, the police and the fire and everyone were wonderful. I detail it all in the report a little bit more. One thing I didn't have in that report that is is starting to take shape today is as individuals and organizations are looking for ways to kind of soothe everybody post the incident in Highland Park. Our staff down at the lakefront has suggested, and we're discussing internally and we're supportive of, and we'll be putting the details together and putting the word out, but doing a free day for first responders in the area who were involved in the event, where they themselves, police, fire, dispatchers, people of those sorts of jobs, they and their families can come to Gilson and enjoy a nice day. So more details on that to come. So that's just in the early formation. So we're looking forward to doing that. Also in my report, I touched briefly on Gilson Comprehensive Plan at the committee of the whole meeting. I said we're trying to do a little bit of research. I spoke a little prematurely on the timing of that, not knowing that my research partner, Andy Tanucci, was not going to be available last week due to a vacation. So we're hoping to get that all squared away this week. Then the only other things in my report are the upcoming agenda items. When we get to the Lakeview Center bid documents, I'll introduce the topic. We have with us Jack Hayes and Fred Marino from Frederick Quinn Corporation, and Heather LaHood, who is the project architect from Woodhouse Tanucci Architects, here to help add more information as they're the experts, answer your questions. And then lastly, we just need to adjust our October meeting date in and around some holidays. So that is my report.
Great. Any questions or comments? And it's probably worth noting that I know you and I have talked about it. We're behind schedule on the golf course restaurant renovation, but we're working to get that completed as quickly as possible.
Correct.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right. Great. New business, item 7.1, consideration of the Lakeview Center bid recommendation. Could you briefly take us through this? Are you going to do that?
I'm going to give you a very high level. They're going to give you much more detail. So as I noted in the memo in there, the bids came in, not only higher than our budget, which was set prior to having Frederick Quinn on our team doing cost estimates, but also it's higher than their initial estimate and then their revised estimate that they came to the May Lakefront Committee meeting and discussed not only the conditions within the market driving those increased costs, but also some possible options of value engineering the project to try and do cost containment. Ultimately, the committee gave the direction of bidding the exterior deck as an alternate. So when these numbers came in, that is kind of a different number as well. But they also provided us a couple value engineering options that are outlined not only in my memo, but in their memo. They can walk us through that. And, Heather's here to talk about the design if there's any specific questions on that.
Okay. All right. Anyone have any questions or comments to begin with?
Where are we going to start?
Where are we going to start?
Well, I'll jump right in that, as I've shared with you, Steve, it's hard to stomach the price increase when you look at the paper and where we started over a year ago, I guess, with some scoped estimates. However, personally completing a remodel this year, even buying furniture, I am observing that the prices do not stop increasing. So I don't like to see these numbers, but they are credible in the scope of the inflation and everything else that we're seeing. So with that, I think just as a board, we have some decisions to make about the costs. I appreciate that the committee had gone to the point of looking at the value engineering options and pricing those out separately in the bid. We have this here in front of us. How do you want to go about sharing our
So
leanings?
I just want each person to give their feedback on the scope as it's fully defined, and if they prefer any of the options to reduce the cost.
Since I started, I'll just continue
Great.
then.
Thank you.
My sense is of the value engineered options available to us, the reduced scope of the deck is the only one that stands out to me as something I would consider. My question to the designers, I'd like to see a schematic, if we have one available to us, of what the reduced scope entails. My understanding from previous conversations till now is that the deck itself isn't in perfect repair, such that we may, if we chose to forego the deck altogether, that there could be a situation that there would be significant maintenance investment in a timeline that would be, not in sync at all with where we're going. If we're talking about, significant repair work in the 5 to 10 year window, that inclines me to say maybe we look at doing this all at once. But that's really where the material savings is. The glass wall is a small number here comparatively, and also I understood from the get-go that having those multiple spaces for if there's a child's class, children's programming during the day, that having that divider would be very useful. So I'm not inclined to pull that one. So I would say we proceed with everything all in as staff is recommending, or we can explore a little bit more conversation about the deck.
Okay. Patrick?
I haven't gone through a renovation of my own, not quite the scope of yours, I'm sure. I was shocked at what my numbers came back at on a property of mine. So I was very surprised to see another $200,000 increase in the pricing here. But I also think that the reason that we went out and had meetings about what we were doing at Lakeview Center, why we were doing it, and the plan was decided, this is what we're going to go forward with. We said we were going to move forward with it because it was a good idea, right? Let's update the deck because the deck needs a lot of repair right now. And if we're going to be taking the deck off as opposed to just putting Band-Aids on it over the course of the next 5 years, how are we improving the Lakeview Center, with the deck? So I thought the great idea about, hiding the garbage cans from view by wrapping the deck around that side, creating that little, a flat portico, if you want to call it that, so that people could gather out there a little bit, and then having the deck expand over by the stairs. I thought this was great ideas because it just increases the usefulness of that deck and the enjoyment that people can then have if they're out on the deck. the design, moving the staff downstairs, creating an activity room downstairs. I thought the idea of the expanded bathrooms downstairs was a good idea. I'm not as supportive of having family bathrooms up on the second floor, and that's only, as I briefly discussed with Steve, in my eyes, it's more of a safety issue. If you're inviting both male and female, or however people choose to identify, into the same room, you could cause some problems when nobody's up on the second floor, right? I mean, all staff is now going to be on the first floor. So we've had some issues at the park in the past where there have been older men who have chosen to expose themselves to younger people, and I just don't want to invite them into a room where they're allowed to be with younger people of same sex or different sex. I think that's not a good idea when there's no way to stop that from happening. So that's why I think upstairs we should just keep it, update the bathrooms, men and women. I think downstairs you can expand it to what we're calling the family bathroom or a gender neutral bathroom. And that way there's some eyes on it, and it's a safety issue in my eyes. So then the glass, I don't think the glass is that big a deal. Take it or leave it. As far as divider, I think it was a good idea. I'd like to see it stay. Wood deck removing. So I guess in essence, I'd like to stick with the original plan, despite the increased costs. I know that we're moving some things off this year's budget into next year's budget. Things like pickleball was in this year's budget. That's getting, moved out of this budget. There's some other things that are being pushed into next year that we're not going to be able to do this year. So there's room in the budget to make sure that we go forward with this plan that was, discussed at length. So unfortunately, it's going to cost more money than we anticipated a year ago, but that's the nature of the world we're living in right now.
Cecilia?
I'll jump in. I guess, all right, as I looked in, this is really where I felt even before we discussed it, lakefront. I've lived here 30 years, and I have never been able to sit out on that deck that's existing at Lakeview Center. So I guess I do not see it as any value to residents, and perhaps if you can assure me that you will be put benches or tables or, and what are fasten them down so they're not thrown over the side of it, I might be more inclined, but at least right now we've had this beautiful deck that I would love that residents could sit and watch the sunrise or sit and look out at the water, and it just has never happened. So unless that can be done, I see no reason to move onto an expanded deck. I think that the deck also has been a flashpoint for a number of people in the area. So my preference would be to probably, I assume they're off saying no deck work, that the deck must be in decent shape. I know there was some talk about that it needed some repairs, but there's a value engineering here that for no deck work. So I would assume that we can get by without doing any work. So would like to see the deck removed. I also don't really see much of a reason for a sliding glass wall. If we need to separate, I think that separate that one room from another, a solid, sliding barrier would also work. So I don't really see the need for that. So my own feeling was that if we go with the value engineering 1 and 2 to remove both of that, we are back to like the original suggested prices, and that's kind of where I'm ending up at right now.
All right, Allie?
Yes. So the first question I asked when speaking with Steve was, can we afford it? Because I think that should always be our first question. And per Patrick's comments, there will be movement in our budget this year that allows us to afford this construction. So then my next question is, how will we use it, and do we need it? And how will we use it? I am an example of that. 2 weeks ago, I had my daughter's baptism collation there. And we had 80 friends, 45 children, which was a little bananas, but it was a wonderful day. They were, with the exception of 2 families, all residents. So everyone parked in the lot who didn't bike over and walked up. It was the perfect space. It's just very outdated, as we all know. I've compared it to a campground lodge before. I think that's probably the most similar comparison that I can make. So with the updates to the interior looking outward, something that was a little disappointing was in setting the food up, you're overlooking the dumpsters. So you have your guests, you're hosting a beautiful event, and they're staring into dumpsters as they're serving their plates of food. So I am very in favor of the deck. I agree, Cecilia, being able to make better use of it with maybe a morning yoga class, a sunrise yoga class on the deck, or I think that we have creative members of our staff that can help us utilize that space. And again, having just been there and hosted an event there, it needs an update, and I think it goes with the flavor of the full renovation to include that. The sliding glass door is a more minimal increase. I would be curious to see how we would make that function without it. I think it would be very helpful just from a design standpoint. Having the natural light and the view of the lake is part of the reason that glass wall was, I believe, suggested. So it seems to make sense to me. I have full faith in Andy Tanucci and his firm in their vision for that, and for the value of that. It seems to be a good addition. So I think that answers the 3 different points. So I am very willing and interested in moving forward with it.
Okay, thank you.
A clarifying question.
Sure.
Since Cecilia brought it up, Steve, with, and I see that you're working on getting those plans pulled up, but with the deck, my anticipation all along was that it would be open to the public. Is the current deck, because to your point, Cecilia, I have also, if I'm allowed to go up there, I never knew I was allowed to, so I've never walked up there other than in an event that exited from the door up above. But I know, as I shared with you, Steve, when No Man's Land's Pizza used to be there, my kids, we loved to grab pizza and go sit at the tables down below, essentially under the deck, and have an evening dinner in the sunset. But it'd be really cool if you could sit up above and do the same. So is the expectation that would be open to the public?
Yeah, so currently that deck is open. There's a stairwell that goes right up to it. But I think to Commissioner Clark's point, absent any sort of furniture welcoming people to use the space, it's very easy to conclude that it isn't available. And so when she first raised the idea to me a couple weeks ago, Superintendent Gwynn and I chatted about it, and we think it's a great idea to add some furniture out there that will welcome people up there to use it. And with the part that would extend over the garbage area and then the stairs down into the park. Now there's even a more obvious access to it from the south, which doesn't exist today. And so we think people use it, and the only time really it wouldn't be available is during a private event, and we would just sign it, closed due to a private event like you see in other public spaces. And we think it's a really nice addition to the community to have another place to casually take in the park, see a sunrise, do your Zoom call, things like that.
Or a class, right, if there's a class going on in there.
Yep.
Julia, do you have some thoughts to share?
Yes, thank you. Great discussion so far. I would note, I appreciate our consultants, our construction managers bringing forth the value engineering options. I'll start with those, and then I'll move into the restrooms and the discussion of the wall, the glass wall. It does seem to make sense to use the reduced deck option as our first approach. We know that we've received community feedback inquiring about the deck. We also know that it has, some maintenance needs. And while we could defer that, we know that the maintenance will come due at some point soon. So I like the approach to reduce the deck in scope, and frankly, it brings us down to nearly where we had initially budgeted. From there, I understand there's consideration of restrooms, and I think that is a norm in most public organizations and facilities to have a family restroom. It happens to be a very commonplace matter that parents will, share the duties of taking care of small children, and I think that is consistent with what we see in our community with young families. There might be an option to move from 2 family restrooms to 1. I have not seen that quoted, at least in the documentation I received, so I want to understand that further before we adjust restrooms. And then that takes us to the matter of the glass nano wall. I do feel that this is a modern and contemporary feature, and it is part of the promise of the first of the upper level, and removing that is somewhat nominal in terms of savings. I would note that I understand these from other construction projects to be delayed, and so I think it's in our best interest to try to retain it because we may well, need to make other decisions as supply chain issues dictate. But to summarize, I would say in favor of the reduced deck recommendation, keep the wall, the nano wall as is, and I appreciate the recommendations of staff and our construction manager to get there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that taking a look at this project, this is, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but other than some very minor maintenance work, we've done very little to this structure since it was built, and it is the facility that has gone the longest without any renovation. And probably the next closest on the list would be the CRC. And I know that we originally, I think a year or 2 ago, had a plan for a facility needs assessment for that facility. I think we have intent to do some work in that facility as well, but we decided to make that, put that into the scope of our master planning process. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, given the long neglect, quite frankly, of this facility, I've always been of the opinion that we should take a look at the project and do it once, do it right, and then be able to forget it again for a generation. That's certainly been my approach working with other projects and other groups that I've worked with, and I think that's probably appropriate here. I'm, of course, very disappointed with the cost increases. I'm not entirely surprised by them. I think we all need to remember that, and I think somebody had mentioned that these cost estimates were originally done now, I think over a year ago, and the world looked very different a year ago. So it's not surprising me that the costs have increased, and I'm concerned about pulling aspects out of the plan such that we might need to go back and address them again, whether it's in 2 years or 5 years or whatever. I'd like to be in a position that we can look at this. We've obviously spent a tremendous amount of time looking at this facility, so let's do what needs to be done, and then we can put it on the back burner for another generation. So then the question is, well, can we afford it? And I know that a couple of the other commissioners had mentioned, the reality is I think we approved somewhere in the neighborhood of an $11 million capital budget this year, and we've only spent a small fraction of that. So we've, in terms of the global picture, we can certainly afford to spend money on a number of these facilities. Obviously, I think there's a high probability that a number of the projects that were in the plan are not going to be done this year. Now, for example, and again, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have $2 million allocated for the start of the infrastructure work at Gilson. And I doubt that, well, I'm certainly still hopeful that we'll be able to address infrastructure yet this year and get that project started. The likelihood that we will spend all of that this year is highly unlikely. I think Patrick had also mentioned that I think we have somewhere in the neighborhood of $800,000 allocated for pickleball this year. And, those conversations about if we want to provide that to the community or where we might provide that to the community, I think it's clear that those are going to be longer conversations, and we're clearly not going to do that project this year. Now, just because we're not doing some of those projects this year, it doesn't mean that we won't want to or need to in the future. So we have to be cognizant of our spending longer term. But I think just looking at the pickleball project, which is unknown at best, and the fact that we certainly aren't going to spend that money now, or any time in the near future gives me comfort that I think it's reasonable to sort of reallocate those funds to a project like this. So then for the specific items, I am concerned that the deck is old and it has been repaired in the past. I would prefer to have more information about the current condition of that and what might need to be done and when it might need to be done and how much it might be. But I'll be honest, I've always thought that deck was, I think, what's the right word? Funky. It's with the little jut out in the middle, and I think Kara, you had mentioned that you would sometimes sit down below, but often it casts a shadow as well. I think it's an unusual design, to put it best. And back to Ally, your comment, I think covering up the less sightly areas of our facility probably adds value as well. So I think that's an important part of the design. I think the glass wall is an important part of the design. So, I mean, given that, and thank you for pulling this up now, given that we have been talking about this project now for the better part of a year, and, the staff recommendation was that we move forward with all aspects, I would support the staff recommendation. If there were any adjustment at all, I would be, comfortable with having one family restroom as opposed to two. I'd be comfortable with two. I don't think that's going to move the needle in any appreciable way, but I'd be open to either of those. So how we then come to some sort of a motion, I think it would be helpful for me to hear a little bit of clarification from Kara and from Cecilia, because I think you both had indicated some concern or reluctance with respect to the deck, but you also indicated some level of openness to it based on some additional feedback. So if we could double back to the two of you, Kara?
Sure. Yeah, to the dumpster comment, when that was initially presented by Andy a long time ago in the first presentation, there was a photo of the view of the dumpster, and I was like, oh yeah, I know that view. And so I was accepting of the deck from the beginning from that perspective. I also, as I mentioned earlier, in my mind, assumed that this was open to the public because I liked how it expands out towards the south, as Steve said, and there's a stairwell there. So now it visually says you can come up here, whereas right now you wrap around to the back to come up, and it just doesn't feel like you're allowed to go up there. Steve, do you mind explaining what's the reduced scope option? Because that's the part that I don't know. Are we still going to cover the dumpster with a reduced scope?
No, so I'll try and explain it, but when I get off track, Heather's going to stand up and correct me. So you can see all these, dark vertical lines. That's the deck as originally scoped. So this wing over on this side is going south and covers the dumpsters. This wing extends to the north. You can see the funky U-shaped portion is removed in this design. The reduced scope is the red dotted line. So it would just be this front end of it. So no wings in either direction, but also no horseshoe shaped extension towards the water.
Any staircase down? Okay. So therefore, potentially cutting off access from the ground
You
level.
definitely wouldn't you wouldn't have this access to the grass that's on the other side of the dumpsters. That would go away. You would likely end up with stairs kind of in the location the stairs are currently on the north side of the deck.
So would the deck be smaller because you're taking off?
It would be smaller than the existing
Than the
deck.
existing. But it would address whatever structural concerns there may be with the
Correct.
price that's there.
Correct. And if I'm recalling the conversation from the May Lakefront meeting correctly, I believe the hangers, the metal parts that hold the different joists together are in pretty poor condition. So we're looking at having to do major work in the next 2 years, probably almost a full rebuild. 2 to 3 years is what I'm recalling.
So this, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Kara, I know your question, but I just want to clarify. So the red dotted line, it's a new deck. It's not repairs.
Correct.
Everything's getting torn off, and then just the smaller deck is being built.
Correct. So that's alternate one.
Right.
And then obviously value engineering one is do nothing, leave the existing deck.
And just do repairs to it.
So Mike,
nothing.
Do nothing.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would support, especially I appreciate the budget conversation, which I did want to make sure we shared with the public, because that's a question we all asked separately of Steve, is can we afford this? And there is a comfortable room to look at our capital spending and accommodate that. I will change my official answer is I do support the plan as is. In my mind, and I'm sure this could be controversial to some folks in the room, so in my mind, the spirit of this deck being available in public is in a way creating more natural space for the community. I understand that it's something that's built, so that's why I say it might be controversial. But I imagine that if you want to watch birds or watch the sunset, or as Cecilia said, just see this, sit there and have a cup of coffee and enjoy the view, I think it's creating an elevated place to see that's apparently not very used today. Maybe some folks go up there, but as I've shared several times, I would love to go to that space. And I think that is an amenity to the community where we are constrained oftentimes. We can't just go buy land and keep creating more parks. This is a way that we can almost double decker and create an additional view of our beautiful lakefront. So I don't see it as I struggle because I don't see it as it's something that might pay itself off in the sense of we can put lots of programming in there and pay for it. But I think it's an amenity to the community to have, it's another natural space, which is what is often asked for, and something that we can fit into the budget, then that's what I'd support.
Okay, thank you. Cecilia?
Yeah, and let me start because I'm going back with the second restroom, family, the second.
I'm going to come back to the restroom
Yeah, okay.
conversation.
Oh, if you will,
I will.
okay,
Let's just
because I
talk about the
wanted,
deck now,
because I
but we will
did,
definitely talk about the
I did
restroom as well.
ask Lindsay,
Yes.
and she gave a response, so I wanted to make sure that I got that. I'm still going. I guess I'm still going through reduced scope of the deck, just because this fee, the price here, just it just hits me wrong, and so the reduced scope of the deck brings it down, and I guess I'm just going back to the flashpoint that and I just going back to returning that. In 30 years, I've never seen anyone use the deck. I've never used the deck, so I'm just so I'm just going more with the reduced deck. I'm staying with it. I just don't see the sliding glass wall, but that's where I
Okay, so with respect to the deck, and by the way, I would echo the comments that I think we want to really ask staff to look at ways to make sure that people are aware, whether that's in terms of what's placed there, in terms of seating options, in terms of what's programmed there, and in terms of signage, so that it is clear that it's available and accessible to the public. Let's go to the bathroom, and then we can go to the sliding door. So,
I know I'm standing by that. I would prefer the full deck that we discussed
right,
originally.
so I'm hearing a majority with that. So then
Okay.
shifting to the, I guess I'll talk about the sliding glass partition, because I think I heard two people raise concerns about that, but only two. Is that correct?
Not me.
I think Julia and Cecilia.
I raised it. I'm not sure.
Julia was good with it.
Oh, Julia, I'm sorry. Julia, you were good with the partition. You said that was one of the key elements. Forgive me. I apologize. So,
That's just me.
all right. So let's talk about the bathrooms. It sounds like
Which aren't part of the package,
Yeah.
just to be
Right.
clear.
Yes.
So
I'm a little confused.
So there's
Yeah,
not
that wasn't an
a
option.
cost option for the bathroom, right? We've had a couple of people talk, again, Steve, remind me of the history, because again, I wasn't on the committee, but my recollection was that at one point, there was we considered 3 different types of bathrooms. The most expensive type we eliminated. The committee originally recommended that we have one of each bathroom, one that includes a family bathroom and the other level that doesn't. And then the committee came back in May, I believe, and asked for it to be bid out with both of those bathrooms. So there is some history about what those approximate costs are, even though it's not in the bid. So we've had some folks here tonight talk about the possibility of whether we would have 2 bathrooms, the bathrooms on each level being configured the same way, both of them with a family bathroom, or potentially one of those bathrooms not having a family bathroom and being the lower cost alternative, although we need to recognize that we don't know exactly what the savings would be at this point because it wasn't bid as an option.
And I will just tweak a little bit of what you said there. So correct, we started with one family washroom on one level when we initially started kind of the more detailed design concepts. Then at a point prior to the May meeting, the second level was added to have a family washroom. Then at the May meeting, we brought back the elimination of one of the family washrooms as a potential value engineering before we completed bid documents and put it out to bid. So that, and
Thank you.
at that
Thank you
time,
for
it
the
was confirmed to
clarification.
keep both in.
So just going right down the
So
line.
that happened in committee meeting, to be clear.
Correct.
It wasn't here
Correct.
at the board.
Correct. Right. So Patrick, where do you fall on that question?
I just am voicing a concern. If the majority of people want 2 family bathrooms, I'm okay. I'm just voicing a concern that I think that as staff all gets moved down to the first level, if there is an opportunity for something bad to happen on the second level because there's no eyes there, I am worried. And if there is a way to try and prevent that, at least there's an imaginary line, men and women, and that way there's no reason for somebody to be in the bathroom where they shouldn't be. That's all. And then on the first floor, have the family bathroom where you can have, call it gender neutral, call it family, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, Julia?
Could I ask Patrick to repeat that? I apologize. It was a little hard to hear.
So my concern is safety. There's been a history in Gilson of some people exposing themselves, which I think everybody thinks is inappropriate, and I just don't want to give anybody that is, let's call them a bad person, the opportunity to be allowed in a bathroom with somebody that they're not supposed to be in the bathroom with. So that's why I'm saying if everybody wants to have 2 family bathrooms, one on each floor, that's fine. I just am voicing a concern that on the second floor, there's going to be no eyes on that bathroom. And so if there's an opportunity to try and stop something from happening, then I'd like to take that opportunity.
Julia, what are your thoughts? And just so you know where you're located, or is it the end? I'm just working my way down.
Thank you. Yes. Hearing the conversation, I continue to think that while we have it in the budget, and I'm always thoughtful about the stewardship of funds, we have been very cautious about the way that we allocate capital and allocate spending. I understand the arguments for the deck reduction. I think that there's an opportunity to understand that a little further, but I do appreciate that this has been looked at carefully by the team. So while I'm in favor of a reduced deck, I don't see that halting our decisions on advancing the program. And I continue to think that it's a standard to have family restrooms. I don't quite understand how this bathroom would be differently safe than other areas in the park. And as noted, we can afford it. So I think it is reasonable that we would have restrooms that are accessible to families.
Thank you. Allie?
It would need to be a significant cost savings for me to make the change to eliminate it from the plan. I value the deck being included much more so than I would value having this. So I would like to see what the cost is, but it would not prohibit me from going ahead and including it in the plan.
All right, I was reluctant to share costs just because it wasn't bid. Steve and I were just going back and forth a little bit. Why don't you share the last information we had, but we should emphasize that
Right.
if we were to make that change, there's no guarantee that the savings would be that amount.
Right.
It's
So-
unknown at this point.
So at the May Lakefront meeting, when we had the materials for that, the elimination of family washroom was estimated to be somewhere between $37,000 and $74,000.
So no, I find that
And
immaterial
like
then.
Mike said, without
Yeah.
having actually done the bid, we can't can't say that's the actual number. by
Yeah,
any means.
no, but that answers the question then. Just like the sliding glass wall for me, I say we move forward with the staff recommendations.
Right, well, my comments, and I will go, because I did ask Lindsay her comment, she would be okay with removing a second bathroom. My own comments, and I am always a proponent of the more bathrooms, the better. I think a two-family, I think I was one of the ones who suggested when the plans came through that we do a second family bathroom on the second floor, or have two family bathrooms and not just one. I have never known a parent to let a child go into the bathroom without the parent being there. So I do not see this as an issue, because any person, if it's a young teen or a 12-year-old who might go in, they go in and they lock the door. So I don't see how it's possible. I think there's more of a danger for a 12-year-old going into what's labeled a woman's bathroom, where you just need to push the door open and go in, and to be followed by a male, than to be going into a single gender bathroom. I don't see that as a danger whatsoever. And I think I agree that, there are plenty of the areas where where supposedly there have been exposure has been out in the middle of the park. It hasn't been in the bathroom. I do also think when we discuss it at Lakefront, when we finished, someone who was in the audience said, well, there's another reason for these single bathrooms is that a lot of people have elderly parents have to help their elderly parents. So this isn't just for children. This is for a lot of people who may have mobility issues, who may have need for assistance. So that I continue to think that two bathrooms are in today's world especially, are necessary and are convenience.
Okay, Carol?
I support both bathrooms.
Okay. And I don't have a strong feeling either way. Certainly we wouldn't do this for cost savings purposes. I don't think that moves the needle, just like I don't think the elimination of the design element of the movable wall moves the needle. So it sounds like, as I'm hearing, there is, if not consensus, there's a majority to support the full deck, to support the two bathrooms, and to support the base bid. And I would note that I also spoke with Lindsay today. She did send an email supporting the base plan. I spoke with her, she confirmed that, but then Cecilia, I appreciate that you followed up with her afterwards, indicating that she would be open to a reduction from two family bathrooms to one, but it seems like there's consensus for the two. So with that, could I have a motion to accept the base bid?
So moved.
And a second.
I second.
Okay, so again, to clarify, the base bid will include the movable wall, it will include both level bathrooms with family restrooms, and it will include the full decking. Could I have a roll call?
Commissioner Duffy?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
I'm going to say no, because I don't.
Commissioner Kozlowskis?
Yes.
Commissioner Murdoch?
Yes.
Bid recommendation is approved.
Great, thank you very much. And again, I'd like to thank our consultants and our staff for spending time and not just working on this plan, but then working on all the different iterations, because these are difficult decisions, especially as costs increase, and we want to be good stewards of the community's resources. So thank you for all the time and effort you put into this. Next up on our agenda is consideration of a change in the October regular board meeting date. And a little bit of clarification on that. Our normal meeting is the second Monday of the month, and I believe that's a holiday this year. So when we published our schedule, we actually had the date set on a Friday. And again, when we published the schedule, we were assuming that we were going to have multiple committee meetings on Mondays through the month. So given that we're not doing that anymore, this gives us the opportunity to move this meeting from the second Monday of the month to the third Monday of the month and keep on a Monday schedule. Is that a good summary, Steve?
Sure.
Great. So with that, could I have a motion to change the date of the October meeting? Ally?
I move to change the date of the regular October board meeting to October 17th and related 2022 Board of Commissioner regular meeting schedule.
And a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All right, then a roll call.
All those in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you very much. The agenda shows that we would adjourn to closed session at this point. I'm not recommending we do this. Last year, we started a practice that we did a mid-year review of where the district is, and we give the executive director goals and just a progress report on the goals. And quite frankly, last year, because we had 3 new commissioners coming in, an opportunity for those commissioners to be aware of what those were and have further discussion on it. I thought that was a good practice, so I wanted to continue that again this year. That was the purpose of the closed session, but given that 2 of our commissioners are not present, although I believe Julia could engage, Lindsay will not be able to. I'm suggesting that we defer that to next month. So with that, could I simply have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.